Hey, how you doing, y'all? Perry Jeffries here, your entrepreneur CFO, aka the Profitologist, with this episode of Profitology. Super excited to share this one, y'all, because this is actually a part of my personal journey. One of the topic we're going to cover today is going to be about annihilating debt. But if you're joining us for the first time on the episode of Profitology, what we do is we help busy entrepreneurs create a simple system to understand their numbers so that they can make good financial decisions and grow and secure their money. And why we do this, my company at Diamond Equity Advisors, why our team takes this so serious is because we're trying to create an ecosystem. So what we're looking to do is close the wealth gap one business at a time. And the way we know we can do this is by helping businesses become more profitable. So today's topic is about debt. I think I saw a stat some time ago that said that the average business has, close to $150,000 in debt. Well, we've worked with 100 entrepreneurs across the country, actually across the world now. We have clients over in Australia. And with that being said, this is true. We see a lot of times that entrepreneurs have debt, whether it's personal debt or business debt or a combination of both. So I fell into that as well. I looked up and I said, man, I'm carrying a lot of debt. So debt from, when I lost my job and had to burn through all of my finances and had to make some hard decisions. Debt where, I hired, possibly some coaches. Debt where, income wasn't coming in and maybe I had to put stuff on a credit card to try to float it. All of those reasons why all of us kind of go into debt. But I recently was able to pay off 100% of my personal debt. And what I'm going to share with y'all in this episode is how I was able to do that. So I had personal debt to the tune, I think, is about $40,000. I don't have my sheet pulled up right now, but we recently paid that off. And it took some time. But actually, the time it took was really condensed because we had a very fine-tuned system on how to get it paid off. So what I'm going to share with y'all, and don't tell anybody I'm giving you this for free, but I'm going to share with y'all part of our PASS program. So if you're not familiar, we have a cash management program specifically for entrepreneurs called PASS, the Profit Accelerator Small Business System. This program has 8 steps to it. I'm going to share with you what happens in one of the steps that we actually implement to help entrepreneurs get rid of debt. Because we know if we can alleviate that debt, not only from a financial standpoint, but from a mental standpoint, you're able to be more productive and importantly, able to drive more profit. So I'm going to take you step by step in how we go about doing this, y'all. So here's the deal. First step, ask yourself this question. Why am I in debt? Hard pause. Ask yourself that question. Why am I in debt? Are you in debt because you don't know how to manage your finances? Are you in debt because something, a tragic came up and you ran out of cash? Are you in debt because, the pandemic hit and you had to put a lot of shit on credit cards? Like, why are you in debt? Write that down. And then another question I want you to ask yourself, how did you get into this debt? Because while you're in debt is kind of looking at one side of the brain. How did you get into debt is going to look at another side of the brain, because what you have to do immediately if you're going to get out of debt is you have to take 100% ownership of why you're in debt. The reason you're in debt is your fault. So I know there may be some exterior forces. Hey, I lost my job. Hey, I did this. Hey, I did that. But ultimately, the reasoning behind you being in debt is fall squarely on your shoulders and how you manage your finances. Okay. So that's the hard part. That's the come to Jesus part. Own up to it. You're in debt because of the decisions that you made. Okay. Now, moving forward, now that we've kind of had that awakening, step number 2 is you want to create the right environment to get out of debt. Now, you may say, hey, Perry, what do you mean about an environment? So I'm reading this book right now called Atomic Habits. My assistant, Cindy, hey, Cindy, shout out to Cindy, recommended the book, and I've been listening to it here, and it's a really good book, and it talks about how we create good or bad habits. And a lot of times your habits are a reflection of your environment, right? So when I say create the right environment, if you're in an environment where you're spending and you had that urge to spend, right? Like if you go to the shoe store that you're going to buy shoes, don't go to the shoe store. Why are you trying to eliminate debt? You know what I'm saying? If you know that you're gonna, you know what I'm saying, put a meal on a credit card, if you go out to a fancy restaurant, don't go to the fancy restaurant for a while. So that environment is really, really key. But what I'm going to speak more about is the environment inside your home, inside your house, inside those four walls, right? So write this down. If you are married, you need to have your spouse on board. You need to sit down with your spouse and go through all of your debts. You have to do this together. If you are married and you're not having this conversation with your spouse, it is almost a 100% guaranteed chance that you will lose this debt annihilation race. Guaranteed. You have, if you're married, you have to have a spouse who is on board. Okay. So with that being said, how I was able to get out of debt is I sat down with my wife who absolutely hates debt. And we put it all on the table. Hey, this is what I have. What do you have? She didn't have much debt, had a couple things we're going to knock out. Me, I was carrying the burden of the debt just because of the ups and downs in my entrepreneurship journey, but I'm not making an excuse. I'm owning it. That's not the reason I'm in debt. The reason I'm in debt is because I didn't have a system to manage my cash, keeping it 100 with y'all. Now, we sat down, and because of the support system of my wife, I was able to get out of a pretty hefty debt pretty quickly. Okay. Now, if you're not married, how you create this environment is you find somebody else who is super serious about getting out of debt. So that can be your accountability partner. So step number 2, create the right environment to get out of debt and take away the temptations to go into debt. Because again, when you write down why you're in debt, if those temptations is, hey, you know what I'm saying, I always order DoorDash, and next thing I know, I spent $900 on DoorDash. That actually happened to one of my clients, right? Because of the pandemic, it was just so easy to hit that button. Take the DoorDash app off your phone, but create the right environment. Step number 3, now it's time to look at your cash flow. So it saddens me when I hear people think that it's like a magic pill to get out of debt. This shit is not that hard. You know what I'm saying? In theory, here's the deal. Look at your cash flow, get crystal clear on what's coming in, crystal clear on what's going out. You got to put this on paper. This is a cash flow game right here. If you have more going out than you have coming in, that's one of the reasons you're in debt. So how do you fix this? It's not a magic pill. Either you get rid of some of the shit that you're paying on, you know what I'm saying, and get rid of the cable bill or the extras, or you go make more money. It's not a rocket science here, y'all. It is simply this: either make more money or get rid of, you know what I'm saying, the monthly bills that you're paying on, some of the monthly bills that you're paying on. That's how this works. Unfortunately, that's what it comes down to. But you want to get a crystal clear idea of what's coming in and what's going out. If you look at your budget and you say, man, Perry, man, I only have, $3,000 a month coming in, and I got $3,000 going out. Man, I want to get out of debt. Well, here's the deal. You need to go get another source of income. If you've shaved all the fat and got rid of all of the wants, and you kept the necessities, and you got the best pricing on those necessities, and you still don't have room, you know what I'm saying, you still don't have any discretionary income, you need more money. So you either need to get you a side hustle, or you can, you know what I'm saying, start a home-based business or something along those lines that's going to give you some tax advantages where maybe you can get more money on your paycheck at your job, but it's not a rocket science. You want to get out of debt, first thing, you know what I'm saying, we got to look at your cash flow. If you can't reduce your monthly expenses to the point to give you some discretionary income to start paying down debt, then you need more money. It's not a rocket science. It's not a magic pill. It's not a spreadsheet. That's what it's coming down to. So now look at your cash flow. Now, after you look at your cash flow and you get your head wrapped around that, and I don't want to move past this too quickly because this is super important, because everything is always going to come down to cash flow when we talk about profitology. The step number 4 here is now you got to list out all your debts. I highly recommend you do this on a spreadsheet, Excel or a Google Sheet, something along those lines, but you got to list out all your debts. Not only are you listing out your debts, but you're listing out all of your credit vehicles. So let's say you have $5,000 on one card, but the other cards, you don't have anything on it. You still need to list everything. And I'll tell you why here in a second. So you need to list all your outstanding debts and all your credit vehicles. And what you want to do is you want to list, excuse me, what's outstanding, what your limit is, what your monthly what your monthly payment is, and what your interest rate is. And that's what you want to see on here. Okay. Now you got everything listed out. Now, what you want to do, the reason we're listing out all of that is because there may be some opportunity in your current financial situation to refinance some debt, right? If you have better terms on this card here, let's say you got a card that's 0% interest, you know what I'm saying, for 18 months, but you got this other card that you're paying on is 25%, but that's where your balance is. Wouldn't it make sense just to move that to the other one with the 0% interest so you can knock that out and not just throw money away? So again, that's why you list everything out, because now what you got to look at is where you can maneuver some things. All right. Now, after that's listed out, we go through a step in our past program, our Profit Accelerator Small Business System, where we go through what's called a cash flow index calculator. So this is our proprietary piece that we have and we use, where we literally prioritize all of the debts. Now that everything is listed out, we prioritize the debts based upon what is the most toxic debts in your cash flow. So contrary to some of the other financial talking heads say and whatnot, I really don't care. I'm telling you what works for me, what has worked for me, and what has also worked for my clients. Okay, we prioritize the debts, and it's not about the highest interest rate. It's not about the lowest payment. This is not about, hey, you start here and do this snowball. That's not what we're doing. What we're going to do is prioritize the debts based upon which debts have the most toxicity in your cash flow. So think about it like cancer. That debt is eating into your profits. It's eating to your positive cash flow. It's eating to the money that goes into your pocket. You have to identify, and let's say it was cancer. If the highest concentrating of a cancer is in one area, attack that first. Then you attack the other areas. So you kind of go through this cash flow index model where now the debts are prioritized. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now we're in order. Now, what happens at this point, typically when we're working with our clients, is they don't like the order of the debt. They'll say, well, Perry, that's not what I wanted to pay off first. Well, guess what? I didn't ask you if that's what you wanted to pay off first. The data says this is what you're going to pay off first. And I get some pushback and never fails. Well, Perry, I don't want to pay that one off. I kind of want to pay. Well, again, the data said you do this. So something that all people should be able to do with their debts, whether person or business, is you want to be to see your finances in 3D. 3D, not three-dimensional, but what you want to be to make data-driven decisions. One of the reasons your ass is probably in debt is because you probably made some emotional decisions with your monies and said, I'll just put it on a credit card and pay it off later. What we're going to do is take emotion completely out of this transaction, and what we're going to do is let the data tell us what's the order we're going to pay things off. Now that we've done that and we have a really, really good order, everything's listed out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next step, what we're going to do is step 7 here is you want to schedule all minimum payments on auto pay. Okay. So now that we have all of the debts, listed out, we kind of refinanced where we could refinance to get better terms and things of that nature. Now what we want to do is set all the minimum payments up on auto pay, because we're going to make the minimum payments. So that way we don't get any type of credit dings and things of that nature. And then now that lets us know where we're going to double down at, because now we have an order. Now we double down and we pay down what's priority number 1. Then after that's payoff, then we take the monies we just put it on that and the extra money we have and put it on priority number 2, then number 3, and number 4. So now it's very systematic. It's very mechanical. It's not being driven by emotions. No emotional decision being made. It's being made with data. Okay. Now, we kind of get to step number 8 right here, and we're using our extra income to pay stuff off. Well, Perry, what do you mean extra income? Again, let's take this back to step number 3. We talked about your cash flow. Hopefully, when you looked at and had a hard look at what's coming in and what's going out, and you found all of the fluff and all of the fat that you needed to trim, hopefully that gave you some discretionary income. If not, you may have to go get a second hustle. Hey, I'm the entrepreneur CFO. I've managed $80 million of clients' assets. There is no other person on the planet Earth who has the combination of designations, licenses, and certifications that I have. And guess what I did when I decided I wanted to get out of debt? I went and picked up a side hustle just to have some extra paper coming in so I could reallocate that money to pay off debt. You do what you got to do. There's no shame in the game. This is real life. We're trying to get you to the point where you are positive cash flow. Okay. So One thing we do is when we look at your cash flow, when we go back to that budget, is ideally we want to have 3 months of cushion. So if you're a business, we call that your core capital cushion. So what that means is this: if you've crunched the numbers and you really dug into your numbers and you realize that it takes, let's say it takes $1,000 a month for you to run your business because you work from home, you got a couple apps, you know, your website, things of that nature. Well, your core capital cushion is $3,000. Well, when you have upwards at the end of the month, anything above that $3,000, then you shave that off the top, you take that and you throw it on your debt, but you don't pay it on all of them. You pay it in priority until that first priority is gone. Then you use the money you was paying on that and then pay it on priority number 2, priority number 3, priority number 4. Now you have a rhythm and you have a system. So at the end of every month or pay period, however you're flowing, you're taking whatever that extra money is. You're taking that, you're throwing that down on the debt. Get you a side hustle, again, double down on the debt. Now, step 9, one of the most important steps is the accountability piece. Go back to when we talked about, creating the right environment. If you're married, you got a spouse. If you're not married, it's just you, accountability partner. Now you want to meet to review the numbers. Hey, how much debt do we pay down this month? How much outstanding debt do we have? How much money money is going out in monthly expenses on the debt? You want to be able to track those numbers. What you measure gets handled, right? So if you're not measuring it month to month or week to week or whatever your rhythm is, at the very least a month, then you got to start doing that. You can't just put your head in the sand like a camel and hope that it's going to go away, because it's not. That debt is going to continue to snowball and get bigger and bigger and bigger. So what we want to do is make sure we're reviewing those numbers so you can, hey, slap yourself on the butt and be like, you know what, good month, P. You know what I'm saying? We knocked out $10,000 in debt. You know what I'm saying? When I made the final payment on all of my personal debt, I was, you know what I'm saying, went in the kitchen, gave my wife a high five, boom. Hey, baby, personal debt free. Now, do I still carry a little business debt? I do. But it's really, really healthy debt and really, really good terms. So, now we're going to start knocking that out. But from a personal standpoint, no personal debt on the table whatsoever. So that is the steps, ladies and gentlemen. Again, don't tell anybody I gave y'all some of the secret sauce, but this is one of the 8 systems, one of the 8 strategies inside our Profit Accelerated Small Business System. This is what we do. And this is how we help our clients eliminate major amounts of debt systematically, being able to see their finances in 3D, make data-driven decisions, and also you'll hear us say this phrase as well: let no dollar go unemployed. If you never heard me say that before, what I mean by that is this: money is like, so I use this analogy. Money is like children at home in the summertime with no jobs and no activities, and their parents are at work and they're just at home alone. If those children don't have something to do productive, they're going to find something to get into that more than likely is unproductive. So let no dollar go unemployed. And there you have it, y'all. That is our debt annihilation process, part of our past system. So with that being said, y'all, I'm going to give y'all a couple of takeaways here. Let me bring up my stuff here. Couple things coming up. We have a major webinar coming up here next week. In the link, you'll be able to go to perryjeffries.com/events. Excuse me. We're going to be doing an all-out webinar on the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan. We call it the EIDL loan. Saying how you should spend those dollars, or the strategies on how you should spend or invest those dollars. There's a lot of folks out here who receive the money and are either scared to death because they don't know how to spend it, or you got folks out here being extremely reckless and spending the money crazily and are going to actually put themselves in harm's way, looking at potential fines and jail time in the future. Because if you receive that loan, you signed up. If your loan is above $25,000, you signed up to give the SBA collateral over all of your assets, your home, your future home, your deposit accounts, pretty much the whole gambit. So the SBA has stated in that document that you signed that they'll come back 3 years from the point you receive that and may ask you for receipts on how you spent that money. So it's imperative that you get this right. So if you're watching this and you're an entrepreneur, whether you have the EIDL money, you're thinking about getting the EIDL money, you want to dial into that and also share that with your friends. Also, too, if you're interested in learning more about our past program and you're an entrepreneur who's been in business and actually generating some revenue and just want to get crystal clear on how you should manage those dollars, give us a shout here. Here's a link where you can get on my calendar for a strategy call. It's in the links as well. And then with that being said, y'all, we'll close it out. Again, thank you for joining me for this episode of Profitology with Perry Jeffries. And I'm going to stay on here a little bit longer to see if there are any questions from our audience. So bear with me here.